All right, we've had 24 hours to sort of
bring it down,
relax and exhale. I know I have. I hope everybody on the panel has.
I'm cool as the other side of the pillow, guys.
We haven't heard from Mike yet, so we're going to get his thoughts.
I decided to do all, like my podcast this morning.
Yeah.
Taking people inside the room a little bit. I actually recorded it last night, which I usually do it in the morning, but I had two doctor's appointments.
It's still your thoughts.
It's still my thoughts, so I did it last night.
Not much changed last night.
But I spent about 24 of the 30 minutes on the Guardians, baby.
Good for you.
I hope there's a lot of people that watch it because it's all Guardians stuff. I did a little Browns at the end.
I mean, here we go again. We're going to dive into the Browns and leave the Guardians on the side of the road, unfortunately. We're going to talk about them later in the show.
We will get to them later.
They're starting what is, I think everybody would agree, the biggest series of the year for them. They're at Chicago.
Just don't get swept.
Chicago has, you can argue that Chicago has favorable pitching matchups for the series. I think they do.
Definitely today.
And I think
game 2 is pretty close.
2 is close, but
3 is edge Guardians.
Yeah, because it's Shane Bieber.
But tonight is a huge edge for the White Sox.
Yeah, it is. Big. Yeah. I don't expect a win tonight. We'll talk about that later in the program.
Just don't get swept
a little bit of business to take care of before we dive into our Browns talk. Leroy Horde is going to join us. He hasn't gotten his chance to vent about yesterday's game.
How do we know he's not going to be really upbeat and positive?
Well, I was texting with Leroy during the game. That's how.
Yeah.
Now,
guys, I saw a lot of good moves there. Really,
he might be positive now, but during the meltdown, we had some interesting text exchange.
Sure.
I'll save that for Leroy. Aditi's going to join us. She, of course, was on the sidelines. She might be able to give us player insight. What in the world was going on that sideline during that minute 55 of nuclear meltdown? And then we're starting something new. We've had Jen Matthews on the show. She's the daughter of Clay Matthews. Mm-hmm. She's going to start a new segment. It's not going to be weekly. It's going to be every other week. Bi-monthly. It's Browns Trivia. And it's going to be centered around games from the past between the Steelers, this week's opponent, and the Browns. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're going to test our collective Browns-Steelers
We're going to team up to see if we can get the answers.
We're going to just give her one answer collectively. So we have to.
These questions are very difficult.
So Mikey said these are probably going to be big swings and misses for us.
Jason went 1-4.
You know what? G. Bush is out, neck issue.
Yeah, he's having some neck pain.
If nothing against you, Brad. G. Bush is a savant.
When it comes to
when
that
I talk to that guy about games, he'll tell you in 2007.
His memory.
Play sequences in downs.
He remembers everything with the Browns games.
Whereas I was at that Browns game and I don't remember any of it. Just so you know. So good luck, guys. I hope to help out this team a lot.
We're drinking.
Yeah. Well, that helps. That affects the memory, doesn't it? In the meantime, what we've done so far through the first 2 games is we focus on the first day of the new week. First of all, our Monday is our reaction to the game. Then on Tuesday, we always say how the Browns offense will match up against the opponent's defense. And this week, obviously, the Steelers defense is without their motor. TJ Watt is out with the pec tear. It looks like he's going to miss perhaps 6 weeks. He's going to try to make a go of it after he sits and rests. But we heard from DeQuell Jackson last week, who had 2 pec tears. Mm-hmm. The first play he came back from 6 weeks of rest after his initial pec tear, he completely tore it off the bone.
Right.
Very difficult injury to play through.
Yeah.
TJ Watt at times has seemed superhuman. We'll see what he can do. But we know that he's not going to be on the field Thursday night, which I think is a huge advantage for the Cleveland Browns because he is the hub to their universe when it comes to defense. Before we do that, though, because you weren't here yesterday, Mike, I want to hear your thoughts in the nutshell on what we witnessed on Sunday. Many are calling it one of the worst. Jim Donovan said last night on his recap show that it was the worst loss that he's witnessed.
By the way, before you go, Mike, real quick, because Jim Donovan deserves a shout-out.
Oh, he was great yesterday.
That 90-second rant he did on the Myles Garrett comments, one of the best things I've heard. If you missed it, go back and check it out.
Still trending this morning.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Jim hit a home run.
First of all, Jim's the best, period. And I'm not saying that because I work with him. I've said that long before I ever knew Jim Donovan.
Yeah.
He's the best at his craft, both play-by-play and as a local sports guy.
You want to talk about like a savant about stuff. Watching him after the game, speak just off the top of his head and remember each play throughout every quarter. And I know that he's been doing it a long time, obviously. Well, and then to deliver it with insight throughout and do that for a 5-minute post-game thing, and I'm just in awe of that.
He'll go back to games played in 2007.
Yep.
Yeah.
and say, this reminds me of the Patriots game in 07.
Right.
And you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Total
He's
encyclopedia.
Yeah, well, he's got
best at
another
his
one.
job.
He's got another one to remember from now to reference back to in years to come.
Is he
and be
right?
like, this is like that game. Well, yeah, I mean, it was terrible. I was there. Actually, I had a great Cleveland sports experience this weekend. Perfect dichotomy. I was at the 15-inning Guardians game, and I stayed through the whole thing.
Look at you.
Yeah, I know. So that was a late night on
Steph
Saturday.
told me about that yesterday.
Let me tell you, the end of that game, first of all, they never stopped selling beer, which I thought was questionable, but I appreciated it. They did. You know how normally in the seventh
shut 'em
inning, they're
off,
just
yeah.
like, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a loophole. I don't know if they just said, you know what, we're not going to do this to these people. But they never shut it down and through 15 innings. And let me tell you, about 1 o'clock in the morning, the people who were willing to stay for a 15
How many
inning,
were left? at the
it
end?
was very sparse, but it looked like a Greyhound station at 2 a.m. It really did. It was
because they were selling beer.
and there were just people looking around, just like, anyone want to fight or make love?
funny.
That's what everybody looked like they were thinking.
That's funny.
At that point. So, but I went to that.
I'm glad you stayed.
But we had that experience. We got to watch one of Cleveland's teams dig down deep and refuse to lose. And then the next day we got to go and see a team just refuse to win.
What a dichotomy.
I mean, that was a hell of a weekend, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And it was something else. So I actually sent this out. We left after they went up their second score.
Oh,
And
you
I'm
left?
Yes, we left.
Wait, you stayed 15 innings at a baseball game,
Yes.
but left with 2 minutes
We
left
were
in a
up 2
football
touchdowns, and I didn't want to walk in amongst that cattle, and I was still very hungover. So I wanted to get out. When was the last time you guys walked out among the commoners
it's awful.
on the way out
I've
of a
done
game?
it. It's awful.
And it's not any better when it's 90 degrees
Among
and everybody's been
the
drinking.
It is slightly better, though, after a win.
Of course. So
Oh, it
you're
had to
thinking
be
it's a win,
miserable.
but I
Yeah.
still want to get to my car in a win without. And everybody's been hammered. They're all, everybody's. It was gross. So I want to get out.
Yeah.
So we're getting out, and we're leaving. Take a picture. The picture is of me holding up 2 because we just won our second 2 in a row. So it's me going like, now it's a peace sign.
Yeah.
Obviously, moving forward,
Sure.
that's what it'll be known as. So I'm just like, and then we didn't post that. I didn't post it until later, But then we're walking back to the station where I parked at. And on the way out, it's just there's still a crowd of people, all the dads trying to get out a little early like me. And it's like upbeat, and then you feel the vibe change. It was like in a zombie movie where the virus starts spreading around a crowd of people, and everybody's just like, oh my, hey, they're like, hey, they just scored. Everybody's like, oh, just our luck. And at first it's kind of funny, then everybody's like, no, this is, there it is. There you go, everybody. So that's us.
So
outside
that's
the game.
with the knowledge.
That is thinking that we just won 2.
I
We just
got
won
it.
our second
Okay,
game in a row.
okay.
That's right when we walked out of the building. Okay. So, anyways, then everybody realizes it, and I swear, I'm telling you guys, I've been through so many of these that I was just like, I'm on my way out, and I'm just like, well, that is an interesting way to lose a football game. I got nothing left. I got nothing left. As far as
Oh my
being furious
God.
about these things, I've just been through too many of them.
I laughed.
Yeah,
At the end
I
of the
did.
game, I literally audibly laughed for about 20 seconds.
But I'm glad that I'm not somebody who's like just really killing myself over this anymore. I remember those feelings, and I just don't have that kind of evil in me anymore. I spit it all out. Oof. But it was. I'm glad I was there. I really am. It was like a really illustrative weekend from a Cleveland sports perspective. And but we're gonna bounce back on being a positive Browns fan. Kings of the North. We're the top of the division, you guys. Top of the division.
We still
Congrats.
are.
Number 1. That's what I'm saying.
We still are.
Technically, no. I think the Steelers at the moment have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right, fair.
Buzzkill.
I know. Just got to do that, don't you?
They've won a
They
division
won a
game.
division game. Well,
But we're in the wild card hunt.
But you
We
control
haven't
your
played
destiny.
one.
Browns still control their own destiny.
If they win, they're in first place.
That's right.
And
They are.
that's all that matters.
That's it.
All right, Mike, I'm glad you shared that. It was in typical Mike Polk fashion.
That's how it
was
went.
humorous
Yes.
while making you want to cry all at the same time.
Yes, that's
Great
what I
combo.
bring to the table.
Well, that's a skill, and you do it as well as anybody I know. All right, Browns offense. Bull,
Yeah.
you dive in first. Much of what we saw against
Yeah.
the Jets, heavy dose of run. How do they attack?
The first thing I want to say is, well, I don't think the Steelers are a very good football team. But then
Right.
again, I didn't think the Jets were a very good football team. I still don't think the Jets are a very good football team. And the Browns, as you said, found a way to lose. I do think, normally I would say you want to throw the ball against the Steelers because I think their secondary outside of Minka Fitzpatrick stinks.
Right.
They don't have any corners that are standout players. They really have nobody or not much in their back seven that stand out besides Minka Fitzpatrick. However, even though Jacoby Brissett had a good game last week, this team still needs to run to win games.
Yeah.
Right now. That's how they play, and that's their strength, and they have to stick with it. The Steelers have been a tough team to run on. I don't believe they're as tough now. They haven't played great. Here's the thing too. The Patriots have some issues on their offensive line. The Bengals have 4 new starters on the offensive line. Yeah. I think I underrated how much time that was going to take for them to come around, and the Steelers took advantage of that. The Browns don't have that problem. The Browns' offensive line has been stellar in the first 2 games. They have had no problem run blocking. They've had no problem pass blocking. There's been great protection. I think the Steelers will struggle to get pressure, and if they don't get pressure, the Steelers thrive on pressure. When they don't get pressure, I don't think man-to-man they're that good defensively, and so I think the Browns can be balanced, but ultimately, even though the Steelers traditionally are good against the run, same game plan for me. It worked last week.
I'm with you.
Keep running the rock with Chubb and Hunt as much as possible.
And when you do throw it, distribute it. Get it around equally. I thought they got Njoku involved early.
Right.
Then he became the invisible man.
And then it was Cooper and nothing else.
DPJ.
Yeah.
On the side of a milk carton. Anthony Schwartz, I don't know. David Bell, 1 catch.
Yeah.
Got rocked.
Right.
And that was it. I mean, outside of Amari Cooper, the passing game really was pretty non-existent.
No, in fact, in our not best bets, our prop bets that Mikey sent us, I kind of have a feeling it is going to be. They're going to look for more balance. My guess is nobody has a huge game in the passing game, and then a bunch of guys this week kind of are in the middle, and that Nick Chubb has the big game again this week.
You agree with all that, Mike?
I do, except I do think that we're kind of it's a tricky situation because I agree. What you say there is we have to stick to the run, rely on the run. That's how we've gotten here. And then we're like, but I'd like to see Njoku get more involved. I'd like to see Harrison Bryant get a couple of touches. I'd like to see him spread it out to Donovan Peoples-Jones more. I do feel like we have to make some choices, obviously, and I think you're right to lean into the run. I think next week it'll just be probably lopsided in a different way. Maybe Amari Cooper doesn't get as many hits. I think there will always be somebody that he uses in that way and gets comfortable with throughout the game. And then a bunch of people are going to get lost, and that just happens in most of these games. I do love that we're taking Pittsburgh on at this point. You said yourself, against Cincinnati, had 7 sacks on him? That's insane. Yeah. And then last week they had 0. I mean, that tells you something, but they still got Cam Hayward. They still got, and you still have to worry about, obviously, Micah Fitzpatrick has interception in each game. So, he has a harder time when they can't get pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
Obviously.
When they don't get pressure, they're not that good. Without TJ Watt, they are, to me, just an average defense.
But we always have the Browns-Steelers factor. Again, we can look at all these numbers that we break down every single week, and we saw what it came down to at the end of that game for the Browns game is all those numbers at the end of the day went off the page. And it became about which team kept their act together and figured out how to win the game. And in a Thursday night matchup on a short week between the Browns after they're coming off of that, anything goes, and I don't know how it's going to work out.
And to your point, like last week, it shouldn't have been about this because the Jets have no culture or coaching success either, just like the Browns.
Yep.
But the Steelers, at least they have culture and coaching success.
They do.
They have that to hang their hats on.
And they're not afraid to come in here and pull out a victory. They've done it many times.
What'd you see, Mr. Mayor?
Well, thank you. So let me jump in here, right? Because first of all, this is not Oprah, right? You get a car. It's not that. The Browns' offense is predicated on one thing: running the ball and running it hard, right? I don't care that Cam Hayward can play, right? He can straight out play, right? And they're gonna be here to meet the challenge because Cleveland and Pittsburgh, that's what they do, right? But we don't run away from what happens typically with us sometimes. Our bread and butter, if somebody starts stopping, we go to something else. Well, we're not built like that. You're going to keep running it, and then I tell you what, when we spread the ball around, I see you have to keep Amari Cooper involved. I see him with a high number of targets.
You do?
I do, because he's your best receiver, right? And then, but you do have to sprinkle in DPJ. He has to be involved.
Right.
And Njoku has to be involved, right? We cannot be forgetting it. And I think
he had a bad drop Sunday.
Sunday, what happens is, though, they try to overcompensate for the first game because they didn't find Amari Cooper.
So they forced it to
him.
they
kept forcing it to Amari Cooper. And he was making the catches, but you limit everything else.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think they forced it to him. I mean, he had 10 targets, caught 9 passes. So they were all good.
A lot of those, he was covered. He ran great routes to get a little separation.
They went out their way to find Cooper.
Which they should, because he's their best pass catcher.
But they're making up for the first week where they didn't see him, right? And so what I would tell you is, with the Browns, the way they set up here, Brissett, he seems to lock in on certain things, and he can't break off of it, right? So I'm going to need you to spread it around here. And the other thing is, I tell you, and I like Stefanski, right? I make some jokes, I call him Little Einstein. But listen, don't overthink this. Many of your coaches done it. You have Hunt and Chubb, right? Hunt and Chubb. Just keep hunting Chubb. Just keep doing that. Pound it, sprinkling everybody else. But it's Hunt and Chubb. Yeah. But I tell you what I don't want to see again, this. Do not leave Hunt on the sideline for like he was missing in action.
Right.
Right. You have two people. Use them at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know why he went. They used it so like they still ran the ball well, but I agree. There was like 3 series in a row they didn't use Kareem Hunt at all,
and they never used them together that I remember.
Right, I don't think they did. If they did, it was maybe 1 or 2 plays, but none of us remember it.
No,
you did it a bunch of times. It worked. Why would it not work against the Jets? I don't. Why would you not do it at all?
And
I don't
the other thing I say to this bull is this. Here's the story. We're just trying to survive. We're trying to survive 11 games, right? I don't care how we do it, right? Maybe it's unconventional that we use them at the same. I don't care, right? But what we cannot do is come back after 11 games and be under 500. We cannot.
The season's over.
We cannot do that.
If Watson comes back and they're 5-6,
I
don't see how they climb out of that.
I'm going to be really ticked here, right? Because you guys talk about you're over. I'm still not over, right? I hate bad losses. They stick with you, and they should stick with you in your soul if you're a player. And what I did not like yesterday was this. It didn't seem to stick with anybody in their soul.
Yeah.
I like what Joel Bitonio said. Joel Bitonio basically, I thought, was the voice of the fans when he said, look, we got booed, but as badly as the fans are hurting right now, we're hurting more.
No disrespect to Joel Bitonio, right? But you need your lead dogs to be the ones.
Yeah, well, as we said yesterday, who the hell are they?
Yeah.
Well, he is the lead dog on that offensive line at this point.
On the line, he is, for sure.
When it comes to winning games, making plays down the stretch.
Right, sure. There's got to be other guys.
Nobody steps up. I'm glad he tries. I'm glad he tries. The rally of the blind, the one-eyed man.
No, you're right. I would say that'd be fine for them to rally around him.
It made me think about my own playing days, right? I remember we played a game against Milwaukee, and I'm inbounding the ball in the final seconds against Milwaukee, and I throw the ball away, right? So Terry Cummings steals the ball on my inbound pass. And I get in the locker room, Doug Collins jumps all over me.
Did it cost you the game?
And it cost us the game.
Okay.
And he said, you threw a soft pass. And I was like, I did not throw a soft pass. I didn't do it. Stop lying. I didn't do that. And then because I was just defending for myself because I knew what had happened.
So you were defensive.
Right.
Was it a soft pass?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I didn't see him coming.
Sometimes in the moment, that's hard to hear.
I didn't see him coming, right?
Yeah.
And Terry stepped right in and took it, right? So when Denzel was talking about, it wasn't me. Yes, it was.
Right.
We see the tape.
Yeah.
It's okay. I want you to say, my bad. Next time it won't be me.
Well, so yesterday we didn't hear from Myles Garrett. And here's something that I'm really going to be looking for today. Because yesterday they had limited availability to players. They had some Zoom opportunities. Today, the reporters will get to go into the locker room, and it'll be open locker room. I'm curious. Myles took it hard yesterday from the fans. Jim Donovan, I thought, was the absolute perfect tone. It was measured. It was well thought out.
Right.
But it was right on the money. I'm curious today to see if he stands in front of the microphones and reels that back a little bit.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to ask him about it.
Oh, it'll be the first question he's asked.
Right, I mean, he's got,
it better be.
It better be.
I mean, sometimes
they let you down.
No, I know, but this better be the first question that's asked.
Yes.
You've had more than 24 hours now, or at that point it won't. It'll be almost 48 hours.
Yeah.
To think about your post-game comments.
Right.
Obviously, players say things in the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's unfair that 10 minutes after the game, there's a hot mic in your face.
Right.
Yeah.
The fans didn't like what you said.
Right.
Do you still feel that way? And I hope he pulls it back.
And I'll say this, and I give some deference because they're young, right? I'll say it on, and people say, why you being so soft? I'm not being soft. They're young. They don't know. And Myles, who is new to Cleveland, basically.
Not anymore.
But I'm just saying here, the history of what. If you've been here like us, right? There's some history here. Right?
Yeah,
you can't dispute. You can't dispute.
But 5 years that's a long time to.
But I'll say this, just stay with me on Jay. Denzel is different. Denzel's from here.
Yeah, that's true.
He's seen it, right?
Good point.
If you grew up a football fan, you know he had to see it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't expect you to be on this other rant over here like, it wasn't me. Yes, it was. Because the people just wanted you to know, right? You have to understand, you deflated a country of Browns fans, not just the Cleveland fans.
Yep.
It was across the country, right? Because we're always defending this place.
We were the butt of the joke again.
Yep.
Here, we right back here again.
He's right.
And as far as back here again.
Like, as far as Myles Garrett's concerned, he's like, we were in the playoffs 2 years ago. Before that, we were kind of bad. He's like, last year was a rough year. For him, he's like, we haven't been that bad. He wasn't here for those.
Right.
No. He wasn't here for those.
That doesn't mean anything to him.
No, right. But you're right. Ward was. He at least saw that he saw the fan experience. So he can't claim that same ignorance.
You couldn't be a Cleveland fan or Ohio State Buckeye and not know what it means to be a Buckeye or a Brown in this
He
time.
might not have been a Browns fan.
But
you're aware of it.
But
he was aware.
And not be unaware of this.
He heard the frustration.
Right.
He saw
and if he wasn't a Browns fan, that may have been why he wasn't.
Right. And well, you know what? And the thing is, Jim, and we've talked about what Jim said yesterday, and he made the point of saying that players kind of want this one-sided relationship with the fans. Like the fans have to laud them with praise all the time and cannot complain about anything. And that's how the players, I think, act quite often when it comes to fans and with media. Like I've said this before, I could say 100 good things about a player on Twitter or on the air. Mm-hmm. You say one bad thing and I'm a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's the way
it doesn't matter. And I know I'm harsher than most, and sometimes I go too far. But still, like, if I'm I've said a million good things about Myles Garrett. Yesterday, I criticized him on Twitter. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't even know if he knows who I am. Well, I do know he knows who I am. But the point, I'm not trying to say I'm some big shot or anything. I'm just saying, like, he might get pissed about that when I've lauded him 100, 500 times.
Yeah.
So you got to take the good with the bad.
And that was Jim's point.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
You didn't see what Jim said, he basically said, you want to be in a one-way relationship.
Right.
Where you get all the adulation,
right.
You get all the cheers, and you get all the love, and you don't want anything to do with the criticism and the boos. And this is a package deal.
Right.
That's how it goes, especially here in Cleveland. That's why I do think that Myles is a smart enough guy and thoughtful enough he's reflected on those comments for the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
He's heard them over and over again in his head. I think in his heart he knows, even if he believes them.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
He has to know he needed to keep that in here.
I think he will.
How about not just in his heart, just from a PR standpoint?
Right.
Do you think even if he's like, still in my heart, I believe that I'm in the right here and I shouldn't have been booed. But just from I'm getting my ass kicked on Twitter right now for this, and they care about that stuff. And he might be like, I will make this statement just to make this be quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're young, you don't know just to hold it in, right? And to your point see, I will tell you this. Hell, ain't nobody been booed more than me. I'm going to tell you that, right? I done caught the good side and the bad side. And the heat you catch in this town is nothing like the heat in Chicago. I mean, it's real heat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's deep down heat, coming to get your family heat, right? That's what kind of heat you getting, right? And so you got to stand there and survive it. And some of the people to the athletic side, to the athlete side, I'm going to tell you this. Some people out here that bull are jerks. They're just jerks.
Yeah.
The people writing, talking, they're just jerks, right? Now, if you got something constructive to say, I hear you out. But when I'm 24, 23, I can't hear you at all because I'm thinking that you just against me from the beginning.
Especially when you're a professional athlete, good enough to become a professional athlete, which means you've only been receiving praise throughout your entire life. That's the other thing.
Especially nowadays, everybody's shooting your ass.
The other thing, if you care about your craft, you don't want to be criticized in your craft, right? Because it says, you weren't good today. What you mean I wasn't good today?
Right.
I care about this crap. No, you wasn't good today.
Mike, I know you want us to get back to the Steelers. We all agree. I mean, the way you attack this Steelers defense, because I didn't weigh in yet. You guys did. I'm with you. You go to the playbook folder and you open up the rings to the 3-ring binder and you pull out the game plan against the Jets. And then you go back to the game plan against the Panthers and the one page that said, we're going to use Hunt and Chubb on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
You add that to the playbook.
And let's go.
And you put it in under the Steelers game plan.
Right.
You close the binder, you give it to the players, and you say,
don't overthink it.
We're going to do this well because we've done it all well already.
Let me ask you.
Tomorrow is going to be the discussion on the defense. Because tomorrow we'll dive into how the Browns defense should play against the Steelers offense. That's where it's going to be an interesting conversation because one thing we never mentioned yesterday, if the Browns can't figure out how to communicate at home, wait until they're on the road in a hostile crowd and they can't hear each other.
And wait until they're on the road. I know this is a while down the road. You think the crowd's going to be hostile now. Wait till Deshaun Watson's playing.
Let me go there because that brings me up to this thing I was thinking about the infrastructure. There was a time management problem in that game.
Yes.
Is that going to get addressed here between now and third? Because I
it's
tell you,
better.
Stefanski owned that yesterday in his comments with the media.
But why?
He did.
Owned it.
Why is that his job? Shouldn't he have someone doing
it's
that
the
for him?
person in the second chair.
Well, whatever. That
that's their
person,
job.
fine, but that ultimately he's responsible.
Yes, I'm not saying he's not.
The head guy going to take the fall all
Right.
the
The
time.
thing.
Brett, he's not going to come say, Joe Schmo, my number two
No,
here.
but
it's
I'm
his
saying
fault,
the infrastructure should be in
I'm
place.
sure that is there.
There was a
And
breakdown.
And there was a
Well,
breakdown.
You know
yeah.
what, though? To that point about the infrastructure and there was a breakdown, here's my question. When the head coach is the offensive coordinator,
That's another problem.
he's got two oars in the water.
Yes, he does.
He's and he can't focus just on one.
That's right.
If he were the CEO,
Yes.
and had a 30,000 feet view as the CEO, while the offensive coordinator was putting all of his brain power into what do we want to do here.
Yes.
Stefanski can do exactly like we were doing at home.
Look
Yes.
at the clock.
And say,
Yeah.
okay, they need 10 yards for a first down, 12 for a touchdown.
How many
There's a
timeouts?
2-yard zone there where if we go down there, the math is going to, the game is
It's over. And even before that, how Kareem Hunt's running out of bounds.
Oh, that was the
Yeah,
first
I mean,
time that was
you know.
inexplicable.
Yeah.
I mean, is this
The second time it was hard. It would have been very hard. He was fighting to get the first down.
True.
He got pushed out of bounds. It would have been impossible for him to
But
stay
the
in
first
bounds.
time he could have
The first
easily.
time was totally
Yeah.
on him.
Yes.
And that goes back to my point. He's calling the plays, and he's also got the
Yes.
view from
And
30,000
this
feet
team
above.
has
Now,
a
yes, Alex Van Pelt, as the offensive coordinator, could have said, yo, Kev,
Yeah.
Yo.
you might want to think about something
Right.
here.
Yep.
If
But
we
Alex
go down,
Van Pelt is still doing. He's not doing head coach duties. He's doing offensive coordinator duties.
So is the head
and so
coach,
they don't
though.
have really the head coach doing head coach duties. And
Thank
that's
you.
the problem. It's
Thank
being
you.
split.
And
yeah.
is he so scared of just saying this is the game plan, handing it over to him essentially? Does he think he's going to lose? He's going to
Yeah.
Alex Van Pelt's
No,
going to say,
he had-
that's not what we're running, coach.
Mike,
Right.
He's the head coach.
Mike,
Right.
he hasn't made the transition because, in my other job here, I can't do everything.
Right.
Although I know I can do a lot, I said, but if I try to do everything, something's going to get diminished.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
of course.
have to trust you
Yeah.
and you
delegate.
to do it. I have to.
Yeah.
Right?
Good-
And he has not learned
No.
to
Good
do
leadership.
You're
that.
right.
You know, to his defense, his background was offense, obviously.
Right.
And it's understandable that he would think I'm the smartest offensive man in the room here.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've had 2 years and 2 games of a body of work to look at it, let's face it, this offense is dripping with weapons.
It is.
Dripping with weapons.
Last year,
and you
too.
go back to last year when OBJ and
Last year had even more
and
last
Jarvis
year.
Landry were here.
Yeah.
Well, for 2 seasons
Yes.
here. Now I give you that he had a lot of injuries along the way in COVID.
Sure.
But at what point has anyone in this room said, "This guy's the next Andy Reid"?
No.
I mean, there were flashes of it in that 2020 season.
And that's
But-
hard. We don't often say that with young coaches, or it was McVay, and
Right.
and he.
But-
But you're right. I mean, there's never been like the first year we were like, this guy's doing a really good job. He's smart, but we weren't blown away by his offensive prowess and creativity.
And to the
it's
degree
gone
that we
downhill
were,
since.
because there were some that were.
Yeah.
But then 2021 just knocked that shine off
Right.
real quick.
And it's continued this year.
And
And
we-
we were all excited about week 1 because they were creative with using the 2 backs for the first time. We were
Right.
all calling for it. And then it disappears in week 2, which was really disappointing.
Well, let me tell you, it's awful hard running the company and being the worker too.
You're right.
You cannot do both.
Yeah.
You
Smart
might think
people, hire good people, and trust them to do their job.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Alex Van Pelt is an experienced NFL coordinator.
Absolutely.
He could absolutely handle that job. And I just think it goes to guys, I think it goes to the fact that this team has a general lack of awareness. Right? Like, you can't coach awareness. Like,
As a franchise or the rostered players or what?
I
What do you mean?
think, well, as a franchise, but
Yeah.
certainly on the field, coaching staff and players, like, in terms of like the breakdowns defensively,
Right.
in terms of the clock management that we saw,
Yeah.
in terms of running out of bounds, in terms of somebody not knowing that, hey, Nick Chubb's got to take the knee. And it shouldn't have to be Nick Chubb. It should be somebody on the coaching staff.
So if you're sitting there as the head coach doing only head coaching duties, right? It comes down to this. Do I trust you, Alex Van Pelt, to run
Yes,
this thing?
and there's no reason he shouldn't.
So I trust you. Joe Worcester, I trust you.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing head coaching jobs.
Right.
I'm going to you when I see the defensive
Exactly.
breakdown, Joe,
And as Mike said, he's still the head coach. If Alex Van Pelt calls a play that he doesn't like, he can overrule it.
He's not going to be like, oh, shucks, oh, well, lost that battle, I'm the head coach.
There's a reason that there is a structure and a hierarchy in the NFL that the flow chart everywhere is offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. The head coach isn't calling the defensive plays, and he's not calling the offensive plays. And there's a reason.
I mean, they are in some cases, and certainly Andy Reid is, but he's got a ton of experience.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure Andy Reid calls every play.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to trust your hires. You hired these people; they work for you.
And the funny thing is, Bill Belichick hasn't called the plays. There's been stretches of time in New England where he's not calling offensive plays.
No.
And he's had a myriad.
Defense. He's
Well, defense is his thing.
Yeah.
And I would want Bill Belichick calling my defensive plays. That's what I said. I don't think anybody's looking at Stefanski and would ever say if he gave it up, why isn't this genius not calling plays anymore? We needed more of that. I think, hand it off, see how it goes. Don't let this run you out of town like it did Marty Schottenheimer.
Right.
The problem.
You can be a great head coach, but I'm not sure you can be a great head coach and a great offensive coordinator and play caller at the same time.
Real quick, just it's uncomfortable for him to let go of the lead.
Some of these young coaches.
Grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow
Get over
up.
yourself.